I never imagined my son's college graduation would end like this. The ceremony at the University of Minneapolis was perfect. Blue skies, proud families, and the infectious joy of accomplishment in the air. Nathan had worked incredibly hard for his business degree, and I couldn't have been more proud. But what should have been one of the happiest days of our lives turned into something else entirely. I'm Anna, and after 25 years of marriage, I thought I knew my husband Benjamin. We'd built a comfortable life in Minneapolis, raised our son, and I believed we were happy. I worked as a financial advisor while Benjamin managed his own consulting firm. We weren't wealthy, but we'd saved carefully over the years, planning for retirement and our son's future. That afternoon, as we gathered for photos after the ceremony, Benjamin was acting strangely. He kept checking his phone and glancing around nervously. His assistant Rebecca was there too, officially to help coordinate the celebration dinner, but something about her presence felt off. She was young, probably around 30, and had been working for Benjamin for the past 2 years. The moment came during the celebratory champagne toast. Benjamin stood up, champagne glass in hand, and I expected him to say something touching about Nathan's achievement. Instead, he cleared his throat and announced, "I have something important to share with everyone." The way he said it made my stomach drop. I'd seen that look before. In my line of work, I'd watched countless people try to hide their nervousness before making life-altering decisions. "I'm leaving," he continued, his voice steady but cold. "Rebecca and I are in love, and we're starting a new life together. I've already transferred our savings to ensure our fresh start." The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan's face went pale, and our guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Rebecca stood there with a triumphant smile, her hand resting possessively on Benjamin's arm. But instead of the shock and devastation Benjamin clearly expected, I felt strangely calm. Maybe because I'd seen this coming months ago. Maybe because I'd already prepared for exactly this moment. I reached for my purse, feeling the weight of the envelope inside. 3 months earlier, I'd noticed the first red flag when reviewing our joint accounts, a series of unusual transfers and expensive hotel charges. As a financial advisor, I'm trained to spot irregularities, and these weren't just random splurges. They followed a pattern. The charges always appeared on days when Benjamin claimed to be working late. Minneapolis isn't that big of a city, and the same hotel name kept showing up. The Marquette, downtown, just 2 blocks from his office. Always on Wednesday nights. Always the same suite. I didn't confront him immediately. Instead, I started digging deeper. Working with numbers for 20 years had taught me patience and precision. I tracked every transaction, every receipt, every suspicious movement in our accounts. The evidence mounted steadily. Dinner reservations for 2 at expensive restaurants, jewelry purchases from Tiffany's, and first-class plane tickets to Caribbean destinations I'd never heard about. Then came the offshore account transfers. Benjamin thought he was being clever, hiding money in a Cayman Islands account, but he'd forgotten one crucial detail. I'd handled our taxes for the past 15 years. I knew every legitimate account, every investment, every penny we'd saved together. These new transactions stuck out like neon signs. The final confirmation came from my friend Laura in HR at Benjamin's firm. She'd called me, voice hesitant, one afternoon in March. "Anna, I think there's something you should know," she'd said. "Rebecca just filed for a transfer to your husband's new satellite office in Bermuda." That was when I knew. Benjamin wasn't just having an affair. He was planning an escape. The pieces fell into place. The hidden money, the secret accounts, the planned announcement. He'd chosen Nathan's graduation deliberately, thinking the public setting would prevent a scene. What he didn't know was that I'd already contacted my lawyer, Patricia. Together, we'd spent weeks preparing everything: the divorce petition, the asset freeze, the tax fraud evidence. I'd quietly moved our savings into a separate account, documented every suspicious transaction, and gathered proof of his affair. I took another sip of champagne, watching Benjamin's smug expression as he finished his announcement. He thought he had orchestrated the perfect exit. He had no idea that I was about to reveal my own carefully planned surprise. After Benjamin's announcement, Rebecca had the audacity to wave a first-class ticket in front of everyone. Our flight to Bermuda leaves tonight, she gloated, her voice dripping with satisfaction. We've already found the perfect beachfront property with your savings. The room erupted in shocked whispers. I could see Nathan's hands trembling with anger, his graduation cap still perched on his head. Our friends and family shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure whether to leave or stay for what promised to be an explosive confrontation. Benjamin turned to me, his expression a mixture of triumph and pity. I've left you enough for a few months' expenses, he said magnanimously. I think that's more than fair, considering... Considering what? I interrupted, my voice steady. Considering that I helped build your consulting firm from scratch, that I managed our finances while you focused on your career, or considering that I've known about your plan for months? His smile faltered slightly. Rebecca's hand tightened on his arm. What do you mean you've known? She demanded, her confident facade cracking just a bit. I reached into my purse and pulled out the thick manila envelope I'd prepared. You know, Benjamin, for someone who prides himself on attention to detail, you really should have been more careful with your email password. The one you've used for 20 years, Nathan's birthday? Not very original. The color began to drain from his face. I could see him mentally calculating, trying to remember what emails might be in that envelope. Your plan was clever, I'll give you that, I continued, standing up to face him directly. Setting up the Bermuda account, planning this announcement for Nathan's graduation where you thought I wouldn't make a scene. But you forgot something crucial about me. And what's that? He managed to ask, his voice slightly hoarse. I don't just manage our family's finances. I do this for a living. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the transfers? The hotel charges? The secret account in the Caymans? I smiled, enjoying the way his eyes widened with each revelation. Or maybe you thought Laura in HR wouldn't tell me about Rebecca's transfer request to your new Bermuda office. Benjamin's hands were shaking now. Rebecca had taken a step back, her triumphant smile replaced by uncertainty. Here, I said, holding out the envelope. Before you leave for your new life, you might want to look at this. Consider it my graduation gift to you both. As Benjamin took the envelope with trembling fingers, I savored the moment. Everything I'd discovered, everything I'd prepared, was about to come to light. And the best part? He had no idea what was coming next. Benjamin's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. I watched with quiet satisfaction as he pulled out the stack of papers, his eyes widening as he scanned the first page. The divorce petition, already filed and stamped, seemed to mock his carefully laid plans. What the hell is this? He stammered, looking up at me with disbelief. I took another sip of champagne, savoring its crisp taste. Oh, just some light reading before your romantic getaway, I replied sweetly. You might want to pay special attention to page 3. Rebecca peered over his shoulder, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his arm as she read. The bank statements showed our joint account's current balance, 0. Every penny had been legally transferred weeks ago to an account solely in my name. You can't do this, Benjamin sputtered, his face reddening. That's our money. Our money? I interrupted, raising an eyebrow. You mean the money you were planning to steal? The money you've been slowly siphoning into offshore accounts? I gestured to the next set of documents. Speaking of which, the IRS is very interested in your creative accounting methods. The color drained from his face as he flipped through the papers. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, email printouts detailing his affair with Rebecca, including their plans for this very announcement. Each page was another nail in the coffin of his escape plan. Nathan stood beside me now, his graduation gown rustling as he moved closer. Dad, he said, his voice thick with emotion, you were really going to do this? Today of all days? Benjamin couldn't meet our son's eyes. Instead, he frantically shuffled through the remaining papers until he reached the court order freezing his assets. His hands shook so badly he nearly dropped it. Everything's frozen, I explained calmly. Your personal accounts, your business accounts, even that lovely little nest egg you thought you'd hidden in the Caymans. My lawyer's quite thorough. Rebecca's triumphant smile had completely vanished. Babe, what's happening? What does she mean everything's frozen? I turned to her with mock sympathy. It means, dear, that your sugar daddy is officially broke. Well, not broke exactly, just unable to access any of his money. I hope you kept your return ticket because it looks like that beachfront property in Bermuda might have to wait. The gathered guests watched in stunned silence. My friend Laura, who had helped expose their plan, tried unsuccessfully to hide a smile behind her hand. Benjamin's younger brother Thomas shook his head in disgust while his wife Catherine whispered, "Good for you, Anna." "You've ruined everything," Benjamin hissed, his facade of control completely shattered. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "No, you ruined everything the moment you decided to betray our family. I'm just making sure you face the consequences of your choices." The stack of papers slipped from his grasp, scattering across the floor like fallen leaves. Rebecca scrambled to pick them up, her face flushed with humiliation as she realized their perfect plan was unraveling in front of everyone. Benjamin's composure crumbled as he reached the final document, a formal letter from his company's board of directors. His hands gripped the paper so tightly it crumpled at the edges. The letter detailed an immediate investigation into his relationship with Rebecca, citing potential abuse of power and misuse of company resources. "You went to the board?" he whispered, his voice hoarse with disbelief. "Actually, I didn't have to," I replied calmly. "It seems someone else noticed your inappropriate behavior with a subordinate. The ethics committee has been watching you for months." Rebecca's face went pale. "What does this mean for my position?" "Well," I said, setting down my champagne glass, "I believe the HR term is immediate termination. Though given the circumstances, finding another job in Minneapolis might be challenging." Benjamin suddenly straightened, attempting to regain control of the situation. "This is ridiculous. I built that company from nothing. They can't just—" "They can, and they have," I cut in. "The board's quite concerned about potential lawsuits. Apparently, you're not the first executive to think he could use his position to pursue younger employees." Nathan stepped forward, his graduation cap now in his hands. "I can't believe you did this, Dad. To Mom, to our family, to everything we've built." "Son, you don't understand," Benjamin pleaded, reaching for Nathan's arm. "Sometimes marriages just don't." Nathan jerked away from his touch. "Don't try to justify this. You were going to steal Mom's savings and run away with your assistant on my graduation day. I understand perfectly." Rebecca, now gathering her composure, attempted to salvage what she could. "Benjamin, they can't prove anything about us. We can fight this." I laughed, the sound sharp and clear in the tense atmosphere. "The email thread where you both planned this entire scheme, including today's announcement, the hotel receipts, the witness statements from your co-workers? I think they can prove quite a bit." Several of our guests had quietly slipped away, but many remained, watching the scene unfold with a mixture of shock and fascination. Benjamin's brother Thomas approached, placing a supportive hand on Nathan's shoulder. "How long?" Thomas asked, his voice heavy with disappointment. "How long have you been planning to abandon your family?" Benjamin's silence was damning. Rebecca answered instead, her voice shrill with defensive anger. "We've been in love for 18 months. We shouldn't have to hide it." 18 months? I mused, tapping my chin thoughtfully. "Interesting. That's exactly how long I've been documenting everything. Every transaction, every meeting, every little lie. I had a feeling it might come in handy someday." The weight of realization crashed over Benjamin's face. While he'd been meticulously planning his escape, I'd been 2 steps ahead, quietly building an ironclad case against him. His perfect plan, his dreams of a new life with his young assistant, his carefully hidden money, all of it was slipping through his fingers like sand. Benjamin made one last desperate attempt to salvage his crumbling world. "Anna, be reasonable," he said, lowering his voice to the persuasive tone he'd used so often in business negotiations. "We can work something out, split everything 50-50, Keep this civil. 50-50? I echoed, genuine amusement in my voice. Of what exactly? The money you tried to hide? The company that's about to terminate you? Or perhaps you mean the house that's solely in my name? His head snapped up. What do you mean solely in your name? Remember last month when you were too busy to attend the mortgage refinancing meeting? You just signed the papers I brought home. I smiled, watching comprehension dawn on his face. You really should read documents before signing them, Benjamin. The house has been transferred to my name only. Rebecca grabbed Benjamin's arm, panic rising in her voice. What about the Bermuda property, our deposit? Frozen, along with every other transaction you've made in the last 6 months, I replied. Though I suspect the property developer might be interested to know the funds were obtained fraudulently. Benjamin's face contorted with rage. You vindictive by... Dad! Nathan's sharp voice cut through the air. Don't you dare finish that sentence. The remaining guests watched in stunned silence as Benjamin's carefully crafted facade finally shattered completely. His shoulders slumped, and for the first time, he looked his age. I've worked with your lawyer, Patricia, I continued calmly. She's prepared a fairly generous settlement offer considering the circumstances. You can sign it now, or we can let the judge decide after reviewing all this evidence. Your choice. Rebecca stepped away from Benjamin, her young face etched with dawning horror. You promised me security, she whispered to him. You said we'd have everything we needed. Oh, honey, I said, almost feeling sorry for her. He promised me security too 25 years ago. Look how well that turned out. Thomas approached his brother, disgust evident on his face. The family lake house you've been maintaining for Mom and Dad, have you been using that for your little rendezvous too? Benjamin's silence was answer enough. I'll tell them myself, Thomas spat. They should know what their son has become. Nathan, still in his graduation robes, squared his shoulders. I think it's time for you both to leave, he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. You've ruined enough of today already. I watched as Benjamin's world collapsed around him. His son's graduation, which he'd chosen as the stage for his grand exit, had instead become the scene of his ultimate humiliation. The whispers and stares of our guests, the disgust on his brother's face, the rejection in his son's eyes. It was all crashing down on him at once. The settlement papers will be at Patricia's office on Monday, I said, gathering my purse. Don't bother trying to access any accounts before then. And Benjamin? I paused, meeting his defeated gaze. I suggest flying coach to Bermuda. First class might be a bit out of your price range now. As Benjamin and Rebecca slunk away from the graduation celebration, I turned to our remaining guests with a bright smile. Well, now that the unexpected entertainment is over, shall we properly celebrate Nathan's achievement? Laura rushed forward to hug me. Anna, that was absolutely brilliant, she whispered. I've never seen Benjamin speechless before. Nathan wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Mom, I can't believe you've been planning this for months without letting on. How did you stay so calm? Years of handling other people's finances taught me patience, I replied, squeezing his hand. And watching your father's schemes fall apart was worth every second of waiting. Thomas raised his glass. To Anna, who just gave us the most satisfying show of justice I've ever witnessed. And to Nathan, whose graduation will certainly be remembered for years to come. The remaining guests laughed and clinked their glasses. The tension in the room dissolved into a celebratory atmosphere, as everyone gathered around to congratulate Nathan properly. Catherine, Thomas's wife, pulled me aside. That letter from the board? You timed everything perfectly, didn't you? I smiled. The ethics committee had been building their case for months. I just made sure their announcement coincided with his planned escape. Timing is everything in finance. And revenge. As we moved the celebration to the restaurant I'd reserved, notably not the one Benjamin had planned to use, I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of Benjamin's betrayal and deception had been replaced by a sense of triumph and freedom. Nathan leaned over and whispered, "Best graduation gift ever, Mom." 2 weeks later, I sat across from Patricia in her downtown Minneapolis office, reviewing the final divorce settlement. Benjamin had signed everything without protest, the fight completely drained from him after our graduation day confrontation. The company's ethics investigation had revealed even more than I'd uncovered. 3 other young assistants had come forward with stories of Benjamin's inappropriate behavior. The board had terminated him immediately, his reputation in the business community thoroughly destroyed. Rebecca, facing her own professional crisis, had quickly abandoned their plans for a new life together. Last I heard, she'd moved back to Chicago to live with her parents, her dreams of being a trophy wife in Bermuda thoroughly shattered. The house is secure, the assets are protected, and the tax fraud evidence has been handed over to the proper authorities, Patricia said, organizing the final papers. I'd say this is one of the cleanest divorces I've handled despite the circumstances. Nathan, who'd accepted a job offer in Minneapolis, took me to dinner that evening. You know, Mom, I've been thinking about what you did, how you handled everything so strategically. Would you consider doing some financial consulting for my new company? I smiled, touched by his faith in me. I might be interested, though I hope you've learned to read the fine print on any documents before signing them. He laughed. Trust me, that's one lesson our whole family won't forget. As we enjoyed our dinner, I felt at peace. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even, it's about emerging stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever comes next.